What's happening, everybody? Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning into Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed, big, beautiful show for you guys today. Hakeem Jeffries is still going. We have just crossed the 8-hour and 7-minute mark. I think he just finished the first Harry Potter book. So he'll be moving on to, whatever the hell the next one is, the Chamber of Secrets, as he yammers on for absolutely no reason whatsoever, doing his best to hold up the big, beautiful bill. The big, beautiful bill, which apparently now has the votes to pass. We're going to go over all of what's in the bill. Many of the good, many of the bad, many of the hopeful, many of the wishful thinking. We're going to see exactly what all happens with that. As we hit this July 4th weekend, I hope everybody has got good plans. I hope everybody's got some good stuff going on this weekend. Guys, remember, an Uber costs a hell of a lot less than a lawyer. Guys, hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. How's everybody doing today? He's still going. Can someone please call Jamal Bowman to pull a fire alarm? Anybody? Anybody? Somebody. You know what? Republicans, go do it. Pull a fire alarm. What the hell? Nothing happens, right? Nothing happens. He was telling stories about his grandmother, told a story about his grandfather. And I want to be clear, filibusters actually don't happen in the House of Representatives. Moreover, Hakeem Jeffries have called them a vestige of Jim Crow. Yet here we sit at the 8-hour and 9-minute mark of Hakeem Jeffries' nonsense speech. He is on the third binder. Where will we go from here? I don't know. Maybe he's going to start reading Ayn Rand next. Who the hell knows? Guys, hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We're going to be rocking. We're going to be rolling here. We're going to be talking big, beautiful bill. The House advances the big, beautiful bill towards the final vote, setting the stage for a major Trump victory. Oh, yeah. After this from Just the News, after a marathon of hours of haggling and backroom negotiations, the House voted early Thursday to advance Trump's big, beautiful bill to a final vote, leaving the president at the threshold of securing his signature legislative agenda by the 4th of July. Holdout fiscal conservatives appear to be falling in line as the chamber voted 219 to 213 in the wee hours of the morning to begin debate on the legislation that delivers trillions in tax cuts for Americans, makes the first significant cuts in federal spending in decades, and fundamentally reshapes the size and scope of the federal government with initiatives like Medicaid and food stamp reform. Now, I want to be clear. This is not like a novel idea. All right, Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton were able to come together in the mid-90s for the same sort of Medicaid and food stamp reform. It wasn't that big of a deal when it happened. As a matter of fact, more importantly than anything else, it actually worked. While many said it could not be done, that was part of Newt Gingrich's contract with America, leading to one of the largest House victories for Republicans in the history of the party. But yet Hakeem Jeffries sits and yammers on with Maxine Waters standing next to him with a droopy-ass face with her Botox dripping down. The only Republican holdout seems to be Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. While the bill still faces hurdles during the debate, the procedural vote on Thursday is a strong signal that Trump could score a major legislative win by Independence Day deadline he aimed for in recent weeks. It's also a huge win for Mike Johnson, who navigated weary factions within the Republican caucus. Now, look, we're not there yet, but all signs are pointing to the fact that this bill will be passed. We got past the procedural vote. Now we've got to go to the debate stage. Look, and a lot of people are going to say, why are we wasting our time with all this? Well, look, it's parliamentary stuff that made a whole lot of sense back when the Congress wasn't a show and it was actually a job. Mike Johnson spoke to this earlier today about Hakeem Jeffries' 8-hour and 11-minute diatribe.
Speaker Johnson, are you feeling confident about where you guys are right now?
Yes, we're very confident. We came together, we're very individually, like Hakeem Jeffries will stop speaking.
Do you have a sense of how long it's going to go?
I don't know what he has in mind. He may be trying to go for the record. I think Kevin McCarthy holds the record, and it's an utter waste of everyone's time. But, that's part of the system here.
How many votes do you think you might lose on this final vote?
Maybe one or two, but we'll have the votes, and we'll get this. We'll land this plane before July 4th, as I told you all we would do.
Are you guys trying to still win over Brian?
Completely out of the way.
I am. Brian's a great member and a classmate of mine, a trusted friend, and he has concerns, and I let everybody vote their conscience, but I've certainly tried to encourage him to get to a yes.
Is it on the Medicaid piece of things that he's concerned
I think
about?
he's got a number of things that he's just concerned about, he's in good faith, and it doesn't change anything about his effectiveness as a member or a relationship or anything. He's a great friend.
At this point, are you still having any conversations via text, trying to encourage last people?
I think everybody knows where they are at this point, and we're just ready to get it done and deliver this product for the people. So we're excited about it.
Well, can you talk about what some of the conservative holdouts, what sort of changed their mind in the middle of the night? Obviously, that vote opened a really long time.
Well, I genuinely believe that because the Senate sent us a modified product, a lot of people just needed time to digest that, needed to understand exactly what those amendments and modifications were and what it would mean for the bill and the people. It was a reasonable amount of time for them to do that, so I gave them the space to do it. The president helped answer questions. We had cabinet secretaries involved and experts in all the fields, and I think they got their questions answered. So it was helpful and productive. It's part of the process. So.
Was that really sleep?
No, I haven't been asleep. Can you tell? Yeah.
So look, Mike Johnson has gotten a lot of crap recently and over the last several weeks and months, which I think he deserves for not really putting forth the president's agenda. But if he's able to whip enough votes to get this thing passed, to be able to get the Chip Roys and the Thomas Masseys on board, I think he deserves an awful lot of credit. But what all is in this bill? There has been a serious push for Democrats to say that Medicaid, Medicare, and food stamps are being cut. But that is not necessarily true. Because the question is, who are they being cut from? Are they being cut from your 80-year-old grandmother? No. Are they being cut from your 35-year-old useless son who's currently sitting in the basement playing video games? Probably. It turns out if you're an able-bodied male, you should be going to work. Can't find a job? Keep looking. They're out there, which we'll get to in a little bit. But every single cable news host, every one of them, has questioned every member of Congress on the Medicaid cuts. And it turns out we are on message, we are on point, and we are doing what the American people asked us to do.
Well, what do you say to your governor and fellow Michiganders who may lose their health insurance as a result of this bill?
Yeah, what I say is don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, Gretchen. Let's take a look at the facts. We expanded Medicaid, right? If you are able-bodied, Medicaid was never put in place to be a long-term solution for able-bodied people to work. Also, Gretchen, let's clean up our rolls. Let's clean up and make sure that we are rooting out the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. That is a good thing to make sure that the people need it most. But I do agree with her on this. I have listened to my constituents, and my constituents applaud us for what we're doing. My constituents want to work. They want to make sure that their disabled child is receiving Medicaid and doesn't have to stand in line behind an able-bodied person. So we do agree on with each other on that.
We've also heard that this bill is going to lead to a deportation machine here in America. Okay. Very good. Very good stuff. But when I want to know what's in this legislation, I don't go to the headlines. I don't do that. Because headlines are crap. I don't look at Wolf Blitzer. I don't look at random CNN hosts. I go to one man in particular, and that is the Biz Doc. Who is the Biz Doc? Tom Ellsworth on the Patrick Bet David podcast, who has a way of breaking things down in a very succinct way on what this bill is looking to do, what it will do, and what it hopes to accomplish. We'll get to that in 1 second. Before we do that, Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, passing a big, beautiful bill is quite challenging, but do you know it's not? Heading on over to oldglorybank.com and checking out their competitive rates on things like CDs, investment accounts, small business loans. I did. You guys should do it too. So head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com and start supporting the people who are trying to build out the parallel economy. Go to oldglorybank.com. So, when I want to know what's what in something, I look to one man. I look to Tom Ellsworth, the Biz Doc, as he is known on the Patrick Bet-David podcast. I'm a huge fan of Tom Ellsworth. He really explains business and finance and breaks things down in a very understandable way for the average layman out there. So here is Tom Ellsworth talking about what's in this bill, what this bill plans to do, and how exactly it could get done.
So I see a couple things here, and I like to get past the numbers in the headlines and get to what is really the numbers in the wallets. So they were saying, oh, it's going to reduce after tax income by 2.3% or $560 for the poorest. Wait a minute. $560 a year is $47 a month, $46 a month. Okay, so that's $10 a week. Okay, well, a poor person, $10 is $10, but it's not like you're taking $4,000 off of it, number one. Number two, the president is betting on growth and putting things in. So let me explain how this works. If you've ever been working for a business, it could be a small business or it could be a big business. Around November, Pat, you do this. You tell people to get together, hey, we need to do the budgets for next year. And it's not a wish list. It's a fact-based analysis of what do you need in your department to do this, this, and this so that we can meet our 15% growth. Okay, fine. Well, guess what? The president is betting he's going to get growth. Mm-hmm. Well, same way that a business owner would say, okay, Vinny, I'll let you hire one more person in your department because we're hiring it assuming we're going to get about 15% growth next year. So we're going to be able to cover that. And that person is going to help us with that growth. It's a very simple thing. So the president is betting on growth. That's what's in here. And he's keeping his promise to eliminate taxes and tips on overtime. That will help, people working in the hospitality industry. He's extending the tax cuts. He's keeping that promise. And I don't understand how the mainstream media can say, oh, we're so worried about Newark Airport. It's so unsafe. We're limiting flights. Do you remember Easter weekend, Pat, in Newark Airport? Remember they were saying, oh my gosh, we may have to stop half of Newark Airport. Yep. Everybody's traveling Good Friday, especially here in the Northeast where there's so many Catholic people. Oh my gosh, air traffic control, what a problem. And now he comes out, one of the things in the big, beautiful bill is to overhaul air traffic control. Suddenly, he's spending us into the poorhouse, right? Wrong. Look, I understand the concerns people have about the spending, especially the healthcare spending. But you have to remember he's talking about the Medicare cuts, but the Medicaid cuts, but the Medicaid restrictions comes handcuffed to you got to work 20 hours a week. Oh, remember that? We talked about this almost immediately after the inauguration when he said, hey, Medicaid changes are going to come with the requirement to work a little bit. Yep. And we all talked about it on this podcast and said, well, wait a minute. That's not 40 hours a week. It's not 50 hours a week. Can you figure out how to work 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month, and then we'll figure out something on Medicaid? So I see both sides of it. if the growth doesn't come true and the Medicaid spending just happens and they're raising the debt ceiling, then yes, it's going to add to debt. But the president is saying, just like he said on the tariffs, you got to trust me. And now we've got tens of billions of dollars of tariff revenue. He's betting on growth.
Here's a clip I want you to watch that has to do with the bill. Go for it, Rob.
What we are saying is that if you are able-bodied and working age, you need to be either working or seeking work in order to receive Medicaid.
Bingo.
That is common sense. In other words, if you're a 32-year-old guy, you cannot sit on your couch and smoke weed all day and expect taxpayers to fit your Medicaid bills. That's wrong. That's something the majority of Americans agree with Republicans on. We're also saying that if you're an illegal alien and you shouldn't be in this country to begin with, you should be deported, you shouldn't be getting taxpayer-subsidized Medicaid. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at expanding eligibility checks so that whenever somebody shouldn't be on Medicaid anymore, that we take them off. These are the common sense solutions that we're putting into this big, beautiful bill. And these are the things that Democrats are against.
Very common sense. Vinny, your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, listen, anytime the Democrats are on MSNBC, CNN, and they're calling it the big bad bill, that's what they're saying, and they want people to be melting down over it. They want the media to be going nuts because all I kept saying seeing on social media was cutting Medicaid, Tom, cutting Medicaid.
No more free stuff.
Yeah, it's weird because and by the way, these are the three cuts. So one, like he said, illegal immigrants don't get free health care on our dime. That's it. Only citizens qualified. Guess what? That should already be the rule. All right. And if you're mad about this, you're either stupid or you're lying to yourself. Number two, it eliminates taxpayer bailouts for unpaid hospital bills, aka bad debt. So right now, if someone with Medicaid skips out on their bill, guess what we have to do as American citizens? We pay 65% of it. That means hospitals jack up the prices on purpose, knowing that we, the taxpayer, are going to foot the tab. And then the third cut that the Democrats are losing their mind, are saying, hospitals can't change Medicare or Medicaid, can't charge them more than they charge private insurance or cash customers. Simple and fair, which saves us $148 billion. And just from those three, guess how much we're saving a year? $200 billion. Okay, but the Democrats are all emotional and they keep feeding us all these headlines. You know what it is?
They keep feeding us all the headlines. And look, that was a long clip. It was a long clip, but I think it's important because the way they break down at the end, when the government promises you that they're going to cover something, you charge whatever the hell it is you want because you know it is backstopped by the full faith and credit of the United States government. What does that mean? On this show numerous times, I've talked about the price of college. The price of college, Kevin, what the hell does that have to do with this? Well, back in the 90s, I'm going to give you another example of how this operates. Back in the 90s, the federal government decided that you could no longer include your student loan debts in bankruptcy claims. So if you were in debt, as people know, you file bankruptcy and it clears out your debt. But student loans weren't included in that. And because of that, and they did it for a good reason. You had people going to high-level institutions like Harvard and MIT and Yale coming out with a doctor, as a doctor from Harvard, and just filing bankruptcy. Because if you get a medical degree from Harvard University, you're going to make enough money that you don't need the credit penalty you're going to accrue over the next 7 years. So you run up a bunch of debt before you get out of Harvard. You file bankruptcy. You take your Harvard medical degree. You go get a job at New York Presbyterian, making a couple $1 million a year, and you don't got to pay back the money. And many of these institutions were being crippled by this, so the government changed it, and they backed it up with the full faith and credit of the federal government. What does that mean? Now, many of the student loan debts are coming due. Well, they're doing the exact same thing, only with medical bills. So if you're on Medicaid, you're responsible for some of your medical bills. And if you don't pay it, the American taxpayer foots 65% of the bill at the current moment in time. That is no longer going to be allowed. So what's going to have to happen? Hospitals are going to have to lower their costs to incentivize people to pay the bill. You see, if you take the college example and you compare it to the Medicaid example, big institutions, Harvard, NYU, UPenn, any of the big ones, they know they're going to get their money one way or the other. So they raise the cost as much as they possibly can because they no longer need to be market competitive. They no longer need to compete for the market. You're a poor kid and you're a brilliant scientist. You're like Good Will Hunting. And MIT wants you. They can charge you whatever you want because they know the government is going to back up the loan. They know they're going to get the money because you can't file bankruptcy. The same thing is happening with medical debt right now. Except instead of it being accrued on the person, it's being accrued on the federal government, which is just you, which is just myself. But people in the media continue to push this Medicaid lie. And why is it a lie? They're saying that 12 million people are going to be kicked off of Medicaid. Yes, my question is, which 12 million people? Illegal immigrants? Your lazy son who doesn't think he needs to get a job because he's too busy playing Call of Duty all day? Which ones? And sometimes when they do interview these fiscal hawks, they get utterly drop-kicked. And we saw that last night on CNN with Tim Burchett I think he's from South Carolina. I think Tim's from South Carolina. A guy nobody had ever heard of until Matt Gaetz decided to get rid of Kevin McCarthy, and Tim Burchett became a rising star in this party as he absolutely handles the media with the certain amount of Southern politeness and twang one would expect. Funny thing about this clip, I put the clip out last night, and I said, Tim Burchett just ended Erin Burnett's career. I woke up this morning to realize that it's actually not Erin Burnett, it's Brianna Keeler. But let's be honest, the hosts on CNN are so interchangeable and so meaningless that one wouldn't know the difference. Here was Tim Burchett eating CNN for dinner.
It's going to be a great thing for this country.
Well, the CBO, which you put so much trust in for years and years, that you passed a resolution wanting estimates read before bills, is very clear about how many people are going to be kicked off of health care until you were against the CBO.
No, ma'am. You listen. If you want to do the editorial, just go ahead, and you don't need me on here. But the
These
CBO,
are facts, sir. I don't have to editorialize.
Scores. I would like to see what the economic output of every bill. You as a taxpayer should want that too. And the CBO is the only organization we have. If I could allow a private accounting firm to do it, I would much rather that happen. But the reality is it would have to be the CBO. And what do you have against knowing how much each bill is spent? Why does the media oppose that? Why do you all on the left always fight every chance at America knowing what's going on? The problem y'all have with this bill, ma'am, is that it gets government out of our way and lets Americans make some decisions, and maybe hardworking Americans would have a better choice and a better shot at life in this country without you all just telling us how bad things are going and trying to construct, and as you're doing with me, trying to dictate what I've said. And the reality is the CBO is a partisan organization, and the reality is America has a right to know how much we're spending on every piece of legislation. I cannot believe you as a member of the media would not want open records, and that is exactly what that bill would do.
Sir, we have reported on what is in this bill. We do that time and again.
Ma'am, you all are trying to scare. Are you talking about the big, beautiful bill? You all just try to scare America by telling millions of people are going to be cut off this thing. You're talking about the people that are on it illegally, that are gaming the system, and that is. And
no, we're not. The CBO is very clear.
The bill does not. It does not do anything of what you've said, and all you've done is scare America, and you're not doing a service to this country, ma'am. And you all ought to start talking. You want to talk about transparency, and then there you are attacking me on a bill where I'm trying to make it transparent to how much we're spending on each piece of legislation. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
You wanted to have the CBO estimate, and you're now railing against CBO estimates. Because that is the only organization. That is the only organization at our disposal to do that. Good enough for you, and we are reporting on it. Congressman Tim Burchett, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, ma'am. It's been a real pleasure.
I bet it has been a real pleasure as Tim Burchett decides that the top rope just ain't good enough and decided to jump right off, elbow drop off the damn roof. But the CBO says, I don't care what the CBO says. I don't care. But Brianna Keeler or Erin Burnett or Kate Baldwin, whichever witless wonder is over there at CNN, has decided that, well, we found something. We found an entity that doesn't approve of this. Therefore, that is the only factor we are going to use in determining our news coverage of this bill. But there are some things out there. There are some things out there that they just can't ignore. They just can't ignore. Like the jobs report. We heard over the weekend, we heard over the last several days, I should say, that only 44,000 jobs were added. Only 44,000 jobs? Oh my God, Donald Trump missed the mark by 100,000 jobs. And actually, the jobs report was 144,000 jobs. But the Democrats chose to ignore the fact that whoever typed it up left out the one. Which happens. And CNN is now forced to admit that things are booming.
You expected some of this, but this is better than expected?
Yeah, Sarah, it is. Look, this jobs market is like the Energizer Bunny. Every single time we expect it to run out of steam, it just keeps going and going. So these new numbers show that the U.S. economy added 147,000 jobs in June. That was well ahead of the expectation of about 118,000, well ahead of some whispers that we heard on Wall Street of a sub 100,000 number. So this is indeed beating expectations. We were also expecting a slowdown. We did not get that. This is basically in line with May, which was revised higher. It's also good news. The unemployment rate was expected to go up. It didn't. It went down to 4.1%. That is a very healthy number. This is still relatively historically low. And again, it's below the 4.3% that we had expected.
Below what we had expected. Unemployment is down. Inflation is down. Jobs are up. The Dow currently, right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is 10 points behind its all-time high. 10 points behind its all-time high with the Dow Jones being up. Let's see, what do we got for the one day? 350 points. The S&P is at its all-time high, up nearly a point. So is the NASDAQ Composite, up more than a point. Things are booming. Things are booming. But Kevin, I listen to the mainstream media. I was told that the sky was falling, that the tariff revenue was going to cripple Americans. I was told that the end is nigh and the big beautiful bill is going to destroy the economy. Well, you know what? You can do one of two things, but you can't do both. You can listen to the people who are paid to scare the crap out of you on MSNBC and CNN, or you can listen to the people on Wall Street whose job it is to make everyone money. Because the more money they make, the more money you make, the more money they make. And it turns out they are incredibly confident in the market right now. And that is still coming before any Fed cuts have happened. When this big, beautiful bill passes and the amount of tax cuts that goes in, particularly for overtime to workers. Why for overtime to workers? Well, I'm sure many of you do this at your current job. You have a Fidelity account, you have a John Hancock account. Maybe you take out 5-10% of your income, whatever it may be. You sock it away in your 401k. I'm sure many of your husbands will do that at whatever civil service or union job they have. That's what most people do. Well, now that you're not being taxed on that overtime, the actual number of what that 5 or 10% is going to be exceedingly higher. Therefore, when people stop getting taxed on their overtime, you're going to see the market shoot up because places like Vanguard and State Street are going to be getting new inputs from the 401ks of the hourly workers, which most people in this country are hourly workers. If you've got a regular IRA or a Roth IRA, you're going to see the inputs to your 401k shooting up through the roof. And because of that, the market is going to respond by going up as well, by giving money back to the American people. And it doesn't matter which American person, whether it is the caddy you tip at the golf course, the bartender you tip, the guy you throw $25 to at the blackjack table, or Elon Musk. When more money is put back into the system, and removed from the federal government, markets will rise. But what about revenue? What about revenue for the federal government? Because look, we do have things to pay for. We have things to pay for. We have, of that, there is no doubt. Now that your 25-year-old, your 30-year-old, your 35-year-old, God forbid your 40-year-old's fat ass has got to get off the couch and go get a job, it's more taxable income. Moreover, if you look at something what's referred to as the Laffer curve, which deals with the amount of tax rate that comes in from corporations, when you lower the corporate tax rate, you actually see more money coming in corporate taxes. Why? Not only do big corporations invest less time in offshoring their money, protecting their money, but when you lower the corporate tax rate, you get more people starting corporations. I want to be clear. I have a corporation. I would very much like to pay less taxes. Of course, you know my corporation is loudmajorityusa.com, but we'll get to that ad later. I would love to hire somebody, and maybe now that the tax rate is cut, I'll be able to do so. Maybe it won't just be me you're staring at in this chair anymore. Maybe it'll be somebody sitting over there. There is a camera that goes that way. But because I can't hire anybody right now, I can't do it. Can't do it. I would love to. But the world is ending. John Berman on CNN had to face a very real reality in real time, and he didn't really like it. He had to face the fact that maybe, just maybe, everybody was wrong.
Again, since, March and before, there were predictions that the tariffs, and granted, a lot of them have been pulled back, most of them have been pulled back, but all that tariff policy was going to lead perhaps to inflation, would lead to job losses, predictions of doom. That doom just hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened. And, John, I've been doing a lot of reporting on this topic, and what I'm hearing is that for the last few years, really since COVID, but even before, companies have realized that their supply chains can be interrupted for lots of reasons, for a virus, for a geopolitical event, for a war, for a climate event. And so they've been using technology to really streamline things. They've been getting their systems in place, and there's just a lot more efficiency in the system now. In some ways, I think this is a triumph of business and how business has been optimizing. Now, that said, when we think about who's going to do well in this period, it's going to be big businesses. I am hearing that there's more pressure on small and mid-sized businesses that will be far less able to cope with whatever tariff inflationary impact we do see. That concerns me because small and mid-sized businesses are what fuels a lot of communities around the country. If you see them going under because they can't take even a little bit of tariff pressure, that could have a jobs impact. So again, optimistic right now, but it's, there are some issues on the horizon.
So even when CNN has the opportunity to report something good, jobs are great, they've still got to say, well, things are good now, but, they could be bad. Things are great now, but, the sun could burn out tomorrow. You don't know. Sure, things are going very well right now, but it's raining, and you could get struck by lightning. Hilarious. But the question is, with this jobs report, who got the jobs? Who got the jobs? Y'all ready for this? NWokeness over on Twitter has an interesting little nugget about just who got all these jobs. Saying this is the most important data from the June report. 830,000 new jobs since President Trump has been put into office have been taken by native-born Americans, while 348,000 jobs have been lost by foreign-born Americans. Do you know why? Because the foreign-born Americans are leaving. And those jobs are being filled by native-born Americans. More importantly than that, 437,000 jobs gained were new full-time positions, while 367,000 job losses were part-time jobs. What does that mean? That doesn't directly correlate in terms of a job. What that means is that people are losing part-time jobs because they are being promoted to full-time jobs. Holy crap, I think he finished. Oh boy, oh Nelly, let's see. Is he done? 4 hours and 9 hours, what is it? 8 hours and 8 hours and 42 minutes. Where is fire? What do we got here? What do we got here? Is he, I think everybody strap in. I think Hakeem is done. Is he done? Oh yeah, look at this. What a beautiful thing to see. Yep, he's done. He's all done. 8 hours and 40 minutes of... I don't know what the hell. I don't know. Now we can actually get to work. We can actually start having the votes. We should... this is being reported by Fox Now. Soon the House will vote on the big, beautiful bill. Let's see. What do we got here? Let's see. You know what? Let's see what. Hold on a second. Let's go back to Fox Now has something right now. Give me a sec.
From Missouri is recognized for 1 minute. You have 2 minutes remaining.
Mr. Speaker, could we have order?
The House will be in order. The House will be in order, please. The House will be in order, please. Thank you. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized for 1 minute. You have 2 minutes remaining.
Wow, Mr. Speaker. We have stood in this chamber for over 8 hours listening to a lot of words, a lot of comments, a lot of inaccurate statements. And where I come from, could we have order?
Gentlemen, the House will be in order. The House will be in order. The House will be in order, please. The House will be in order. Thank you. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I come from the Show Me State, and what we just heard can be defined in one word. A bunch of hogwash is what we've heard for 8 hours on that side of the building. I'll tell you, for the 8 hours, could we have order?
We'll suspend. The House will be in order. Thank you. He's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the 8 hours of hogwash that we just heard will not change the outcome that you will see very shortly when we deliver historic tax relief for working families, small business owners, and farmers. Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to our great Speaker of the House, Mr. Mike Johnson.
Not that it matters in terms of the bill, but, you know, obviously Mike Lawler has got to be front and center there.
Well, thank the gentleman from Missouri, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Ronald Reagan said one time that no speech should be longer than 20 minutes, and unlike the Democrat leader, I'm going to honor my colleague's time and be a little more brief than that, all right? I just want to say something that many of us learned when we were children. We were taught, you know, it takes a lot longer to build a lie than to tell the simple truth. My friends and colleagues on both sides of the aisle, we've waited long enough. Some of us have literally been up for days now. But this day is a hugely important one in the history of our nation. We have a big job to finish, and that's why we're here on the week of July 4th, just a day before now, America's birthday. It was on that fateful day, as a Democrat leader acknowledged, that our founders pledged their lives and their sacred honor to this grand experiment in self-governance that we are now here to steward. It's an experiment that falls to us to guard and to protect it. We take that very seriously on this side of the aisle. In just a few moments, we will remind the world why the American experiment still endures today and why its best days are still ahead of us. Mr. Speaker, with one big, beautiful bill, we are going to make this country stronger, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. And every American is going to benefit from that. Today, we are laying a key cornerstone of America's new golden age. Now listen, we have a few words of gratitude first. Scripture's been cited a lot this morning, I think mostly out of context, but what I will say, one thing that we know about Scripture is that we're supposed to give honor where honor is due, and that's what we do on this side of the aisle. I want to thank every single member of the House Republican Conference for pouring their time and their heart and their expertise and experience into this process. I want to thank all of our amazing staff members, all of them. Yes. Their dedication, their endless hours, their hard work made this all possible. I want to thank the White House Office of Legislative Affairs, who have basically lived with us now for the last few weeks. Their patience and persistence and their professionalism is greatly appreciated. Our country's incredible cabinet secretaries have been involved as well. They've assisted us in countless ways throughout this process. Our Vice President, J.D. Vance, helped us navigate so many dire straits along the last several weeks through the House and the Senate. And of course, our bold, visionary, fearless President, Donald J. Trump. President Trump is the creator and the champion of the America First agenda. We will deliver upon that today. We come a long way. We began this process really about 15 months ago. We had a sense and we believed that we would have unified government. We would have this moment where the Republican Party would be given control of the White House and the Senate and the House. And we determined to ourselves that we would not waste that historic opportunity. We've had spirited debates, we've had months of deliberation, and now we are finally ready to fulfill our promise to the American people. That's what we are doing today. Now, look, before I respond to the allegations from across the chamber, I just want to take us back to a day that most of us will remember so very fondly for the rest of our lives, and that's November 5th of 2024. That was Election Day, a fateful one for America. The reason that was so important, the reason it was such a turn in history is because the American people spoke with unmistakable clarity. We sensed it as we were all out campaigning. We saw that there would be a demographic shift in America, and that is exactly what the election yielded. We, in our party, had a record number of Black and African American voters come to the Republican Party. We had a record number of Hispanic and Latino voters come to the Republican Party, a record number of Jewish voters and union workers and suburban women and urban voters. They came out in record numbers to join the Republican Party and the America First agenda with President Trump. That election was decisive. It was a bellwether. It was a time for choosing. And I tell you what, the American people chose overwhelmingly. They chose the Republican Party. And the reason they did that, they didn't come hesitantly. They came with hopeful anticipation. You know why? Because this is not your father's Democratic Party, okay?
Amen.
They went so far, full speed, to the far left. And their radical, woke, progressive agenda, that nonsense that they tried to push on the people, was rejected by the people. Yeah. These new voters came to us. They had enough of the Biden-Harris madness and all the things they were trying to hoist upon the American people that they just don't believe in their hearts. And they were hopeful. They came to us with hope. They wanted us to restore common sense and accountability, and we promised to them that we would do just that. Those new demographics came to the Republican Party because of open borders wreaking havoc on their communities. They came because of weakness at home that fueled instability abroad, and because trillions in reckless spending put the price of gas and groceries further out of the reach for hardworking Americans. It wasn't right. President Trump and our Republican majority in Congress are fixing all of that right now. President Trump said this week, we're the hottest country in the world again. My friends, that is an objective truth. Hey, listen, how about all the wins for the president and this party? Here's just a sample from the last 2 weeks. The headline today will be, the one big beautiful bill passes the Congress, okay? You got to hold your applause. There's too many wins. Are you tired of winning yet? No! Fourth jobs report in a row exceeds expectations. A sample of the headlines. Lowest monthly border encounters in U.S. history. We closed the border. Last couple of days, a new trade deal with Vietnam and all the countries of the world, around the world lining up for that. UPenn agrees to ban biological men from women's sports. Yeah. Yeah. And they ought to give a personal apology to every female athlete impacted by that nonsense. Gas prices are at a 4-year low, my friends. The Air Force and Space Force both hit their 2025 recruiting goals 3 months early. Israel is agreeing to a 60-day ceasefire with Hamas. Successful strike on Iranian nuclear sites handles that problem. That's exactly right. Strength is back. America's back. It's resulted now in a ceasefire deal between Iran and Israel. The NATO countries are increasing their defense spending, not just 2%, 5% of GDP, okay? The president got in charge and got a Rwanda-Congo peace deal. The Supreme Court ended nationwide injunctions. How about that? That conservative majority on the Supreme Court also allows third country deportations. We've had a record high stock market, and we're signing a China trade deal. That's just the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks. So many simple truths to share, and so little time to do it, because I want everybody to have a break here. But I just want to say this. It's really nice to hear my Democrat colleagues suddenly take an interest in working Americans again. Did you pick up on that theme today? Let's be clear. Working Americans stopped trusting Democrats a long time ago. That is a fact. They're looking to this side of the chamber. They're looking to the Republican Party and our principles to deliver the relief and the reform that they have long demanded and they most certainly deserve. This big, beautiful bill fulfills all the promises of the America First agenda. It is the people's bill. It is made for and shaped by the most diverse coalition of American voters in American history. Today, we are making the dream of a government that puts the American people first a reality. A reality. I would need this entire notebook to tell you all the great things in the big, beautiful bill. It is aptly named, but I'll just tell you a couple of the highlights. Record tax cuts for hardworking Americans. Historic savings at the same time to end reckless spending. We got energy dominance coming back to power our future. We have a secure border to protect American families. We have a strong military to restore peace through strength. And we have a government that is now accountable and responsive to the people once again. That's what we're delivering. For everyday Americans, this means real, positive change that they can feel, and they will feel much more when this bill is done. Families back home will have real relief, an average of $10,000 in their pockets, thanks to the largest working and middle-class tax cut in the history of this great nation. That's what we're doing today. You got hardworking Americans like our waiters and our bellhops and our hairstylists. They're going to keep 100% of their tips and overtime pay. That is money they earned. It does not belong to the government. It belongs to them, and they deserve to keep it. Small businesses that want to build and expand new factories, you know what they could do now? They can write off 100% of their investment. That will have us a lot more building. Young families who want to buy a home will be able to, thanks to historic savings that will put our country on a stronger financial footing. Pregnant women, children, seniors, single mothers, the disabled, and the low-income Americans among us receiving Medicaid and SNAP will have the peace of mind of knowing that we've made these safety nets stronger with our reforms. See, when Republicans are in charge, we bring common sense. We're going to make sure that Americans who do need and deserve those critical programs won't have to compete against people who can work but choose not to do so. That's not right. This bill is going to put fairness back in the system. We are returning to common sense. We're returning to what is good and decent that people know in their hearts, and that's why they support it. More Americans will be working, volunteering, and serving their communities because modest, common sense work requirements will restore dignity and purpose to those on taxpayer-funded benefits. The bill will also mean that safer streets are available in every zip code around the country because our border will remain fully and totally secure. The Republican Party stands for law and order, and this is the side that stands with law enforcement, the brave men and women who are on the front line.
The idea that those who put their own lives on the line to protect us would be assaulted for doing their jobs is unconscionable. Law enforcement, I know you agree. I know, amen. Law enforcement will have the help of a border wall now that's 100% complete. Our immigration enforcement officers will get a boost from more manpower and resources and detention space so that detained illegal aliens are not released back into the streets like they were for the last 4 years. And our homeland can rest soundly again under the protection of President Trump's Golden Dome. That's what we're investing in. Look, any of these individual achievements would be historic victories for a Republican Congress or any Congress. And today we're delivering on all of them in one big, beautiful bill. That's what Americans can count on when we pass this legislation, and that's exactly what Democrats will vote to oppose today. That's a fact. We didn't write this bill for the Democratic Party or the elites or the media. This bill is for hard-working Americans, and they deserve it. I'm gonna just say this as plainly as I can. This is a simple truth. If you're for a secure border, safer communities, and a strong military, this bill is for you. If you're for common sense fiscal responsibility and reducing the deficit, this bill is for you. If you're for fair and lower taxes, bigger paychecks, affordable gas and groceries, and restoring dignity to hard work, this is the bill for you.
Thank you.